Nichole, sexuality educator. Welcome to my recap and review of The Handmaid's Tale Season 3, Episode 1, Night. We're gonna dive in a second, but before we do, you know, all the things you can do. You can like this video, you can share it, and you can subscribe to the channel by clicking the button down below. All right, so let's dive in. Season 3 begins where Season 2 left off. Emily and Nichole are in the back of a truck on their way to Canada. Commander Lawrence comes back for June and after some subtle blackmail on her part, agrees to take her to the Mackenzie estate where Hannah lives. Back at the Waterford, Serena reveals that she helped June and Nichole escape because she did what was best for her child, even though Nichole is not her child. June arrives at the Mackenzie estate, has like 5 seconds to whisper some loving things to the sleeping Hannah before the Guardians arrive to haul her ass off. June is brought back to the Waterfords where she, Fred, Serena, and Nick ride an entire emotional roller coaster. Meanwhile, Emily and Nichole have to cross a treacherous river. They almost drown, but then they don't, and on the other side is Canada! Yay! The following day, Serena gets dressed real slowly and then burns her whole house down. Emily and Nichole are taken to the kindest hospital in all of Canada, where they are welcomed and given a standing ovation. June is taken back to the Rachel and Leah Center, where they whip her feet and make her clean up the joint. In Canada, Luke and Moira get an envelope with a photo of Hannah, then turn around and find Emily and Nichole standing there waiting for them. And in the final scene, June is reposted with Commander Lawrence, and we wonder what shenanigans will they get up to. Before I get into what our cast of characters have been up to, I need to put something out there. I know a lot of people like Serena, or at least feel ambivalent about her, and they have hope that she is going to turn it around and become an ally in the resistance. I love your optimism, I respect your perspective, do not share it. Serena is gorgeous, she is brilliant, she is charismatic, and throughout the series, the only thing I've seen her do is weaponize these things to her own advantage. Where Serena lost me was Season 1, Episode 3, which is the one where she thought June was pregnant and was super nice to her until she found out that June wasn't pregnant and just like flipped out and like threw June in her room, screamed at her, and then locked her up for 2 whole weeks. That's when I was like, okay, whoa, this bitch is a stone cold sociopath. And nothing has happened so far in the series to make me change that opinion. We have what I call the Trinity of Cruelty, and that is Fred, Aunt Lydia, and Serena Joy. I think Fred is crueler. I think he is even more of a sociopath than Serena is, but when I watch Fred's character, I do not get as just as angry and riled up. When I watch the show and I sort of think about it on a meta level, and I think about, you know, what are the writers and the directors and the producers sort of trying to make me feel or think, I feel like the show wants me to see Fred as an antagonist, as an evil character, as an awful person. What the show is giving me and sort of the emotional buttons that they're pushing, they align with my opinion of Fred. With Serena, I feel like the show is trying to push emotional buttons like sympathy, like admiration, like hope. And so I'm like, I feel like, you know, show, you want me to think that because there are moments where Serena Joy isn't being utterly terrible, or there are moments where Serena is suffering under the oppression of Gilead, that I'm gonna be like, oh, you know what, maybe she's not awful. Maybe she can be a great person. Just because she has these moments where she speaks to June like a normal human being. Even things like when she let Nichole go with June, and I know for a lot of people that was a big turning point because that was in fact, you know, a loss for Serena Joy. And I believe that she was genuinely devastated to have to let Nichole go. But the thing is, she never would have been in that situation. She never would have been devastated at the loss of Nichole if she hadn't stolen Nichole from June in the first place. So I'm like, I cannot give somebody credit for kidnapping a baby and then giving the baby back to the baby's parents. I'm not like, oh, you're a wonderful human. I'm just like, you're not being actively as terrible as possible right now. I also cannot get past the fact that Serena was instrumental in establishing this entire system. And as far as I can tell, she didn't even establish this system because she had these like deeply rooted beliefs about, you know, saving the planet or humanity. It was selfish. It was because she wanted a baby. I will say though, I do pity her, and I do not like it when Fred is abusive towards her, when he's beating her, when he's chopping off her finger, because I believe that abuse is wrong, even when the person being abused is also an abuser. Do I think that Serena can never ever be redeemed? No. It's gonna take more for me than her crying and being sad because the baby that she stole is gone, and having these very erratic moments of sort of tapping into her kinder, more human side. Hey, she needs to apologize. Like, she needs to get down on her fucking knees and apologize to everyone whose lives she has blown apart, and then she needs to atone. Like, she needs to hardcore atone. If this season she's kind of like, oh, maybe I'll join the resistance because that'll get me what I want, that'll get my baby back, that'll liberate me, that's not gonna do it for me. Like, I need to see her really work for others in a selfless way. And none of this is to throw shade at Yvonne Strahovski, who I think is killing it in this role. Let me know your opinion of Serena Joy down in the comments. All right, so let's get on to the actual review. The very beginning, where Commander Lawrence comes back and he says to June something like, "Are you crazy?" And she's just staring at him, not answering. He's just like, "Thoughts?" Snarky Bradley Whitford is my favorite Bradley Whitford. Mrs. Mackenzie, Hannah's fake mom, and June, Hannah's actual mom, meet and they have a little bit of a conversation. Mrs. Mackenzie is very adamant about the fact that she is Hannah's mother, and something she says to June is, "If you love her, please stop. You know that this will end with you dying on the ground in front of her." And on the surface, these sound like the words of, you know, a concerned mother who wants what's best for her adopted daughter that she loves. But then I think about it and I realize that this is an example of how the elite in Gilead could win gold in Olympic mental gymnastics. Mrs. Mackenzie understands that if Hannah had to watch June die, that Hannah would be irrevocably harmed, that this would be a traumatic event for her, while ignoring two key things. The reason that Hannah would be irrevocably traumatized by this is because she loves June, and the reason she loves June is because June is her mom. Mrs. Mackenzie is conveniently forgetting that fact. The other thing she's conveniently ignoring is that if Hannah stays in Gilead with her, she, you know, probably like a couple of short years from now, basically probably when she has her first period, is just gonna be paired off with some random guy, and, you know, if Eden is any example, she's gonna be with someone way, way older, and then spend the rest of her fertile years being raped and having babies. That's not good for Hannah's well-being. Mrs. Mackenzie is acting like, you know, she is the responsible, loving mother who's, you know, doing what's best for her child, while June is just running around being selfish and not thinking about Hannah's well-being, when in fact it is completely the opposite. And that is why the elite of Gilead would also win gold in Olympic gaslighting. June returns to the Waterfords, and the scene between June and Serena was electric. This is exactly why I do not want Yvonne Strahovski or Serena Joy to not be on the show, because this scene was like poppin'. Serena flips out on June and like grabs her and shoves her against the wall, which is like a classic Serena move. "You gave my baby to a Joseph. You gave my baby to a murderer." And I'm like, bitch, first of all, she is not your baby. Also, Serena, who do you think you're talking to? You are way more murdery than Emily. You conspired to overthrow the US government, which included gunning down dozens of US congresspeople, blowing up the White House. You then helped craft and implement a regime that is responsible for the mass execution of American journalists, of queer people, of sexual health professionals, just all the random people who either tried to escape or resist your enslavement. So then when June was just like, okay, do not even Serena Joy, because you were the one who chased me and my child down with dogs, and you were the one who tore her out of my arms, and she's still here, and I'm not leaving her behind, and I hope you feel this pain. I was like, yes, thank you. I have been wanting you to say this for 2 full seasons, and it's out there. Deal with it, Serena. Then June hugged her because June is overflowing with compassion. It is one of the things I love the most about June's character. She's not perfect, but man, she will see you and see your humanity no matter how trash you have treated her. So that whole June-Serena relationship doesn't make me feel things for Serena Joy, but it makes me respect the hell out of June. When Emily was crossing the river, the show was playing with all my emotions. I was still reasonably certain that Emily was gonna be okay because I remembered from the trailer that I had seen scenes with her that hadn't aired yet. So I was like, okay, she'll get out of that. But I was like, oh my God, she's got this brand new newborn baby in this cold water and and then when she walked up on shore, I was positive the baby was dead, but then the baby wasn't dead. It was just like, damn you, show. When they wound up in the hospital, there's that moment where everyone started applauding and the music was swelling and it was really touching. So the first time I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's wonderful. I love that this show shows this super idealized Canada. And as a Canadian, I can say, yeah, there are a lot of really nice people here, but we are not this, perfect bastion of social justice and warm welcoming without, any systematic or structural or political problems. We're a country with normal people. So, yeah, we've got our shit. But anyway, I was just like, oh, this is lovely. Later on though, I thought to myself, if I were in that situation, didn't know where I was, had barely escaped probably being executed because I stabbed someone in the back, had this baby, whole 9 yards, been to the colonies, just all the shit Emily's been through. I don't know that I would actually feel comfortable having a whole bunch of strangers staring at me and then clapping. Maybe that's just me. Let me know in the comments below how you think you might have felt about the applauding if you were in Emily's situation. I love June's compassion and her ability to find the humanity in anybody. One thing that frustrates the crap out of me about June though is she does not know when it is time to hurry the fuck up. June, the house is on fire. Literally, the walls are shaking because the structural integrity of this building has been seriously compromised, and you're stroking the walls and looking around. Stop that. Did anybody notice that Gilead, their whole regime seemed relatively chill this episode as compared to the past 2 seasons? A handmaid escaped with a baby, and you know how Gilead is about their babies. Several houses burned down, and nobody wound up on the wall. Nobody even lost an eye or another finger. They were just sort of yeah, okay, well, that's unfortunate. Fred, why don't you come into work tomorrow? I'm not upset that nobody lost a body part and nobody got killed. It's just this is not very Gilead-esque. Maybe Gilead has a reverse The Purge where for 24 hours they're you know what, let's just not murder or maim anyone. Now let's talk about the production. So choices that the writers, directors, composers, made, not what the characters are doing in the context of the story. The opening score at the beginning of the episode is a piece of music that I love, that as far as I can remember, they've only ever used one other time, and I think it was at the very end of A Woman's Place, which was in season 1. I think it was episode 6. It was the music that played over the end credits. It's got this vaguely Spanish sort of sound to it. It's very guitar heavy, and yeah, I think it's very beautiful. When Emily is being escorted through the hospital, there's one close-up shot where she's being flanked by 2, I assume they're Canadian Border Service agents. It parallels a shot from season 1 where Emily was being taken to her trial that resulted in her getting the clitoridectomy, which I thought was interesting. Because I'm a nerd, I looked on a map to see where Emily might have been crossing that water into Canada. So if you look on a map, sort of go due north from Boston, look at the Canadian border, and look at sort of the closest body of water where there might be a bridge. On the other side is this sort of small town in Quebec. I can't remember what the name is. So that is most likely where Emily was, in which case I would have expected to have Francophone Canadian Border Service agents. Federal government workers have to be bilingual here in Canada, but in that part of Quebec, it's more likely that they would have spoken French as their first language. Let's talk about Serena burning down the house. Serena goes through her very meticulous dressing for the day routine. I did notice that she put on her slip and then put on her pantyhose like a monster, but I will give it up for her. Girlfriend can start a beautiful, beautiful fire. That shot of her standing at the foot of the bed stoically while the room is engulfed in flames was amazing. You may already have realized that I am quite nitpicky when I watch TV shows, and that shot of her at the foot of the bed was so gorgeous that I did not realize until the second time that I watched it that, it's kind of weird that she actually isn't like choking and gasping on all the smoke in the room and her pantyhose haven't melted into her skin. I read that the song that they played during the house burning down scene is a song called I Don't Like Mondays. I was curious about why they chose that song. If you are familiar with the song, or if you have any thoughts about why they chose to play that song over those scenes, let me know down in the comments. Something I love about Elisabeth Moss's acting is how restrained she can be and how internal she can be with the way she emotes as her character. I suspect that she's skilled enough and has enough trust in her own abilities that she can just, feel a thing and trust that it's going to come out on her face. The very last shot of this episode, Commander Lawrence asks her, "You're not going to be trouble, are you?" And she says, "No, sir." If you haven't, go back and watch her face after she says that, because she says, "No, sir," and it's pure innocence. And then there's just this super subtle change around her eyes and around her mouth, and it lets you know that she has got plans and her brain is percolating, but it is such a subtle change. I understand why the cinematographers on the show really like to do a lot of close-up shots of her face, because she is one of those actors who can really hold a close-up. She's so talented. I wish she wasn't a Scientologist. Overall, I wouldn't say that this episode is perfect, and I'm definitely noticing some cracks in the foundation of the world they've established, but this is a really tricky story to tell. We want June as our protagonist to make gains and to have victories and to move forward, but it's difficult to give that to us as an audience and also maintain the integrity of what they've established before in terms of how ruthless Gilead is. I do not envy the writers their task. It's going to be hard, and I'm expecting to see a little shakiness and some gaps and some stumbles here in this season. But overall, I really like this first episode. I can't wait to see what the season has in store. My camera's about to die, so really quickly, chat in the comments, and until next time, which will probably be tomorrow, have a great day and I'll see you soon. Bye.